is 7 o'clock. I call this Hildebran Town Council meeting to order. Thank all of y'all for coming out tonight. We will begin with a moment of silence. Thank you. And our pledge will be led by Jacob.
Stand and face the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, look over your agenda. If there are no changes, make a motion whenever you're ready.
I wanted to either add or under other business, talk about cleaning in the gymnasium and the community room.
Do you want us to add like I, or do you want to just
Either one, just so it gets in there.
let me write it down? Okay.
You'll make a motion.
To adopt the agenda as amended.
All right. All in favor? Thank you. Approval of minutes, the regular meeting, January 23rd, 2023, and the special meeting. I was not here for that, so me and you'll have to call that. I'm kidding. All right, look over that and make a motion whenever you're ready. I guess you can do both. Everybody was here except me, so.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. Public comments.
We have one of Johnny Childers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the Town Council. I'm here to represent the HHDA, and my topic is this summer's cruise-in season. HHDA is preparing to partner with the town, just as we did last summer, in presenting the cruise-ins. And we hope to confirm maybe next month when you meet that you want us to, and that things will proceed. It appears that the venue used in the past, namely the area here in front of this building, will be available again this summer. That was a concern we had earlier. And we wanted to inform you of our plans for this coming season prior to your budgetary meetings next month. The town's funding of the May and June cruise-ins for this coming season has already been approved in this year's budget. So the budgetary requests that we make are for the 23-24 fiscal year. We're requesting that the town again fund the fireworks in May of next year, just like we've already approved funding it for May of this coming year, for $6,000, which was what we paid last year, and what you paid, and that you again will pay for the bands in July, August, and September of this year, and May and June of next year at the same level that you did for this fiscal year, which should be $6,400. And the other expense that has been covered by the town has been the cost of REACT to provide the traffic control. So that's basically why I'm here. So if anybody has a question, I'll be glad to answer. That's really all I have to say. We do appreciate the leadership that you all provide the town. We thank you for everything you're doing.
Okay, that's all the public comment. Okay, 6, old business. 6A, continue discussion of auditorium renovation project.
Go ahead, Wendell.
Okay. Well, Ben and I, we've met with Bach, we met with someone from Moss Marlowe, and we met with Vicki Carpenter, who's on the planning board. She works for an architectural firm. And we realize we've only set aside $150,000, and that will probably go past that. I mean, we'll probably have to add some to it, but to get by the simplest and we thought would work the best, we leave all the what's the front of the building? The
Proscenium,
you know what I mean.
the lobby.
Yeah.
Lobby, right.
Lobby.
And we have a winner.
That we leave all the lobby the way it is with the bathrooms there the way they are for now. I think in the future sometime we'd want to move the handicap bathroom somewhere else. But then for the seating, we thought maybe if we can't put in all 299, we put in 2/3 of them or half of them or something, what we can afford at this time. And of course, we're still counting on selling plaques, on the seats. Then for the stage, behind the stage, we need dressing rooms. And it seemed like the best way we came up with that was to put the 2 dressing rooms in the 2 back corners of the stage. And then, and we'd have to have 1 handicap bathroom. Oh, great, I needed this. 1 handicap bathroom that would be unisex behind the stage. There is plumbing in that 1 room off to the right of the stage. And of course, we would need a lift to go up to the stage to comply with all ADA requirements. So is there anything else you think I'm being?
Well, the gentleman we talked to has about 30 years construction experience. He suggested adding on to the side of the existing spaces. The one on the stage left is just a small storage room, and the one on the right's the larger empty room. And he just said built out from the corners, and that way we can use that existing space and just add to it. Then pull the projection wall out about a foot farther up from the where the rear curtain is. And that way you can still cross behind it and enter into either of the dressing room. That way we're not taken away from the depth of the stage more than a foot or 2 than what is there now with the curtain. And then pull the 2 side curtains in about 2 to 3 feet to cover up those build-ins. And the walls, the box dressing rooms would be about 8 to 10 feet long and about 6 to 8 foot wide. And it's not given a whole lot of room, but it's better than what is there now. And he gave us a ball.
Dressing room?
I'm sorry?
Did you say that was for the dressing room?
Dressing, right.
Okay.
And he gave us a ballpark, 60 to 75,000, but he said with the fluctuation of building materials, it's going to be hard to say exactly until we make a decision on exactly what we do. Now, he did say we might want to do the construction work before the chairs because of the dust and the construction and everything causing damage to any of the new seating.
These dimensions, the 48 wide, 35 deep, is that after that wall's put in? That's what it would be?
No, that's what it is now.
Okay. And were we gonna get rid of those footlights?
We talked about, said we could get just a cover for them. And that way it'll extend the stage by about 2.5 feet. And that way, if we ever wanted to use them, which no one does anymore, we could remove the cover.
How much does this vary from the design that, architects are drawing up? I haven't looked at it recently, but, I mean, we're gonna have to have a plan and go for a plan rather than just put something in, then 6 months from now, tear it down, put something else up. If we're gonna try to keep moving forward on it, so we're gonna have to have a plan. And we're gonna have to know what we're gonna work toward. If we're gonna work toward one thing first, that's what we need to do. But we can't just keep changing it.
Well, why would we change it in 6 months?
I'm sorry, what?
Well, I'm not understanding why we would change it, tear it down in 6 months.
What's different back here on this back here?
The proposed dressing rooms.
Yeah.
And the proposed projection wall.
Now, is that wall gonna go all the way to the ceiling, or is it?
It'll go up to the metal piping that goes,
Right.
it won't go all the way up because that would not allow for the airflow, for the air conditioning and heating.
I mean, I need to look at the drawing again, but I didn't know what was different about this. If this is exactly
These
the same as
basically
the
just
drawing.
put them in the corners instead of right in, back behind the curtain. Because that was blocking going from one side of the stage to the other. And this is using the existing 2 small rooms on the side and just building onto those.
Let's keep us,
I thought we were gonna,
ADA, let's keep us ADA compliant.
Well, that's what I was saying, there would have to be an ADA bathroom behind the stage, that would be unisex, and there's plumbing back there already in that room to the left, to the right.
I thought we was gonna do this in stages. I thought that's what we talked about last time.
Yeah, we did. The next stage will probably be the lobby area.
Yeah, like I said, we're just gonna leave it exactly as it is for now. And then we're gonna do these other things that, everybody wanted.
I'll leave it the way it is now in the lobby. How's that gonna affect the traffic flow if we start putting these seats in there? There's just gonna be seats on 2 sides. Right now, we have 3. Well, those doors line up where you go down in between the seats. If we start changing seats, we're gonna have 2. So we're gonna have 2 come in, we're gonna have to walk around and go through. But I mean, is it just gonna affect it that little bit, or?
No, Bach had said we could put the seats where the existing seats are. It will just not be as wide as what's there. I mean, won't be as many seats. I think how many are in the row now? I can't remember, 13?
There were 13.
And he
each
said
row.
we'd go between 8 and 9 with the new seating. And of course, we have to putty the holes that don't match up with what the new seating is.
And it'd be more leg room, which that's really great.
But for the amount of people we're gonna put in the auditorium, we have to fill that 299, however many we can get in there.
Mhm.
With just that one unisex bathroom up in the front lobby, is that going to meet code?
No, that's for the back, that's for the stage area, the one unit set.
One that's up there now, he's talking about leaving the lobby the same way.
Yeah,
For
You're
now.
just gonna have one
One-
handicap bathroom. for
one
299.
handicap, yeah, right. It'll have to stay like it is.
I don't know if that meets code or not.
Well, according to Bach, it did.
For one bathroom for 299.
Well,
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know. I thought it was less than that.
and we don't have to put a bathroom on stage. It's just that's one of the complaints for people renting. And if we do put a bathroom up there, it has to be ADA compliant. There may be room back there for 2 stalls. That's what he was gonna check on it.
You'll have to have a lift to get up on the stage.
Right.
too.
And we're thinking on the right-hand side,
The right-hand side is walking down. the hall,
yes,
the right
and then
side
leave
is
the
left.
stairs on the left, right?
Now, for the front entrance, the handicap access for the front of the building, we're just going to depend on that one lift, go up and down. We're gonna have to try to do something else, like a handicap ramp or something.
You wanna talk about that, Logan?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you some insight on it. So the way when we had TKE come out to look at the existing problem, so we did have some relays, some switches that were out last time. The problem this time, the reason the lift's not working, there are sensors on the bottom of the ADA lift. Because it's not enclosed, when that lift comes down, if those sensors feel anything like a child, a dog, an animal, trash, whatever's underneath it, it stops the lift. Those sensors are out, so we have to replace those. The problem with it long term, according to TKE, is because these things are outside, they are technically designed to be outside, but because of the weather, the inclement weather it's exposed to, his term essentially was, well, until you can figure out how water and electricity work better together, these are going to be a problem. So he's saying we can replace it all. We can put in a brand new one. Every 2, 3, 5 years, you're going to have probably an expense similar to what you've got now occur again. So his, we kind of asked him, we said, well, what's your recommendation long term? He said, well, if you want the most cost effective, put in a ramp. Problem with a ramp on that side is it's what, 3 to 4, I think it's 40 inches, but don't quote me on that, from the bottom to the top of the auditorium entrance. So you've got to have it's 1 in 12 in terms of your slope. So if you've got a 40-inch tall landing area, you got to go 40 feet out with the ramp. And then I can't remember if it's every 12 or every 15 feet, but it wouldn't necessarily matter in this instance. You would have to have a landing pad. So you're talking 3 landing pads and 40 feet worth of ramp to get the ramp up to that, to the entrance where you're at.
What's the price of this new one he's talking about?
They haven't got it to us yet, but I'm assuming, I think he might have said, what, 2 to 4,000 plus install. I mean, you're talking, don't quote me on that either. He was just spitballing. But expensive.
And didn't he say the ramp, he would suggest maybe a ramp on the side if we did go with a ramp?
Yeah, he did. That's something I would run by whoever ends up being your architect, is if there's another spot for the ramp. I don't know if there is. You might could run it at the side spot where the breezeway between the auditorium and the municipal complex connect. My only issue with that is if you are doing tickets, if depending on that being your only entrance spot for ADA, if you do tickets or whatever, you're gonna have someone else set up. Kind of have that second entrance to take. I mean, you kind of solve one problem, you create 2 more. So in terms of your best options, I'd get an architect out there and have him tell you. The other thing, you may want to wait and see what the costs are from TKE or any other ADA lift provider. But if they all kind of say the same thing, you're going to have mechanical issues, and it's going to be an ongoing $3,000 to $10,000 cost every 3 to 5 years. The ramp sounds like the better option, but you got to find 40 feet of ramp space somewhere near the auditorium.
Now, what if there were a lift there at the breezeway, which would basically be covered up?
We could we could talk to them about that, see if it would hold up better in the weather. That's something we didn't mention to them, so it could be an option.
Yeah.
Something to ask.
I think the thing that concerns me the most is, like you said, whoever is our architect, we have an agreement with our contractor. And we're just gonna ignore the stuff, we're paying to do designs, and then we're just gonna throw a trash can or.
Well, so one of the
Three or
things.
4 other people.
Well, no, I mean, I did talk after I talked to TKE about the lift, I got with Bach about what TKE had mentioned about the lift, just to get his opinion. So he's willing to come out and look at it, but his concern, like mine was, well, you gotta find 40 feet of ramp space. It's either 38 inches or 40 inches, he couldn't remember, I don't know. But either way, it's 38 to 40 feet. It's gonna be a significant ramp.
And there could always build a cover right over the existing space where the lift is.
It may help. I'd have to ask TKE if we put over, I don't know if weather factors in, if it's just water, if it hits the ground, bounces, I don't know. You would assume it would help at some point. But in terms of how much it helps you, how much time it buys you, I don't know right now.
So, where we're at now, we're just back where we were 2 or 3 months ago when we talked about hiring an architect. Different idea.
Yeah, in terms of the ADA lift, where we're at with it is we're waiting on TKE to get us a price on the fixes versus what a new one would cost, and then how long it would last under the weather. But in terms of everything else, you know, in terms of the seats, I don't think a lot has changed. In terms of the entrance way, I think we've at this point said we can't afford it. It would be a phase 2 type deal. In terms of what council would want to see in the back, you know, what I would say is take what you've got here to Bob, see if he can, you know, with the proposed dressing rooms, I don't know if they've got to be ADA. Do both of them have to be ADA? Does one? Could you leave I know the way it's drawn up here, you might could leave that existing dressing room space open and use it as your ADA dressing area.
Well, I'm sure they'd have to have the 36-inch doors.
Yeah. But you know, in terms of square foot, you know, in the restrooms, you've got to have a stand-up rail, you've got to have a vertical and a horizontal rail. I don't know what all's, you know, you got to have a certain number of feet, like you said, width-wise to get in and out. I don't, you know, I'd have to ask him. But what I would do is I would take what you've got here and run it by Bach and see if it's feasible. Then Mike brought up the point is, does this compromise your long-term? What you wouldn't want to do is you wouldn't want to do something in the short term that would compromise the long-term goals, because then you're paying for it twice. So if you could make this work short-term and long-term, I mean, I'd tell you to go for it. It's just, you know, if this is something that's okay with council, we can run it by Bach and come back next month and see what he says.
I think we do need to go through the architect. That's what we're hired for. I mean, we can take our ideals to him and say, here's these ideals, but he's done a lot of different designs and stuff. I mean, there's all the codes. Rather than talk to this person, this person, this person, this person, you're gonna have 4 different pieces of one puzzle. We just need one piece.
Well, every time we met, we kind of told him something different. I was afraid he was getting disgusted with us.
I mean,
So we wanted to come up with something that say, okay, here it is.
That's what we need to do. I mean, this is fine, take it to him and let him look at it, make sure everything's compliant. But let's get it all in one plan and make it, instead of just trying to patchwork, piecework. I mean, we can do one section before the other, you know, I don't mind, I think we're gonna have to do sections. But I think we need a plan, we need a target rather than 3 or 4 targets. Shoot, we need some kind of
Exactly.
goal. I mean, this is fine, take it to them, let them go over, get us on a path, and then we'll know what we're going for. Right now, we've got his plan, we got this, we've talked to a couple other people. We still don't know what we're heading for until we get something on paper and design.
Once he looks at it and says this can work, then we look at the stages, doing one stage at a time, we do it. And I can't see going in there spending a bunch of money doing this, then come back a year later, tear all this out, and have to redo again. That's just like to throw the money out here in the
No,
road.
we never planned on tearing any of it out.
Why would you think you would have to?
I mean, we keep changing. We're gonna do this, but they say temporarily now, do this.
No, the only thing I said was leave the lobby.
It's a
as
lot
these,
of
I mean, that's fine, you know, as long as we meet ADA code and stuff. I just think we need one design and something to go for. I mean, take this again, let him incorporate it. You know, these are things we need to get to him probably earlier. So he could include it to begin with. You know, it's just gonna be more drafted time and stuff now for him. That we'll have to pay for, but we need to get what we want and then go for it. I mean, we've been talking about it for years, and I'd like to get something done, but we need to know what we're gonna get done. I think. That's just my opinion.
Do we have a contract with him? With Bob?
I believe we've been invoiced.
I think there was an AIA contract now.
What they are?
American
The
Beast.
architect.
I mean, is that where council would like to leave it, take this to the architect, have him review it, see if he can, you know, draw it up?
Gonna go forward with him?
work long term.
Okay. You know, the only thing I would say when you're talking about short-term versus long-term is if the goal long-term is to have a bigger area in the back for green room or dressing, then you may wanna hold off on this, but if this meets all of the needs, then I would say you're fine to,
I agree with that, I understand. I mean, if the architect says, yeah, that'll work, that's fine, just fine. Put it down, do it.
yeah, that's all I would say.
I just need to make, I just wanna make, I wanna feel comfortable knowing that it's been looked at in all areas now, and it's all gonna work together as one piece rather than, it's gonna help here, it's not gonna help this type of thing. That's just, I mean, that's my opinion. Just one, so.
All right, so we're giving Mr. Bach. All right. I know.
Well, I mean, you know, if this is something that's workable, we've made progress, so I wouldn't down it yet, but let's just see where it goes.
All right, 6B, discussion of pricing for patrol services for community park. What do you think?
Yeah, if you'll turn to item 6B, so we've got a memo for you. So several months back, council began discussing the opening and closing of the Hildebran Community Park. Currently, the town contracts with Griffith Security to open and close and perform one additional park patrol during the night. Members of the council have asked staff for additional security companies to review options involving opening, closing, and patrolling the park. So what we did, I contacted K9 Security and Protection Services, Delta Company Police and Protection Agency, and Sheepdog Public Safety for the aforementioned services about the park. So Delta Company Police and Protection Agency was the only company able to open, close, and patrol the park each day of the week. That was one of the first issues we ran into, given the current park hours. So Delta can open the park by 7 a.m. each day, close the park by roughly 6 p.m. during our winter schedule and 9 p.m. during our summer schedule. They asked to provide a 90-minute window for each time period. The basic reason for it is any patrol company that you go with, they're gonna have additional patrols. So let's say they go to patrol B before they get to Hildebran, they run into, an issue, they gotta call the cops, they gotta file a report, whatever. They want a window, they just wanna make sure up front that it can't be necessarily 5:59 every day they get out there, but generally within 30 minutes, they're gonna be there each time. But just to allow for 90 minutes, just in case there is an issue somewhere else. Also, they're always gonna err on the side of opening a little early, closing a little late, because you don't wanna what you don't wanna do is have a situation where you go up there and it's 6:03 and the park's not open and someone's waiting at the bottom saying, hey, it opens at 6. So they'll err on the side of caution, opening slightly early or a little bit later, just in case. Given that, Sheepdog could not perform the opening until 8:30, so we're looking to open it at 7. That, to me, that would be a little bit of a deal breaker unless you want to open your park that late. But so essentially, of all, the 3 security companies, Delta was the only one that could perform all 3 patrols at the time we need them. K9 couldn't perform any of the patrols. They had no additional capacity for new clients. So currently, moving on to the next paragraph, currently the town spends roughly $2,800 per year on park patrol services. For the 3 patrols, Sheepdog quoted a price of $12 per trip. Delta priced opening and closing the park at $10 per trip. So $20 for the opening and closing. And then if you wanted to do continue doing a nightly patrol, that would be $15 per trip. They also do time and a half for holidays, but they only do time and a half for 7 holidays. They didn't mention which 7, but it'd be 7 per year. Sheepdog ended with $36 per day for 3 trips. Delta ended with $35 per day for 3 trips, $20 for 2 trips. Switching services would overall increase expenditure for the patrol services to $7,370 per year for Delta, to do 2 trips per day, and then roughly $12,900 for 3 trips per day, holiday rates included. Sheepdog would run $13,140 without considering holiday pay per year. Both companies, Delta and Sheepdog, would provide detailed reports on a weekly or monthly basis, depending on how often staff or council wanted them. And you currently spend about $2,800 per year on patrol services. So 2 days, if you do 2 trips per day by Delta, you're looking at about a $4,500, $4,600 increase. If you do 3 trips a day with Delta, about a $10,000 increase per year. And then Sheepdog would be about $10,300. So that is just a memo at this point. There's no contract to vote on, but I did want to bring the prices back, let you know that's kind of where you'd stand if you went with another agency, and then just leave the council whether you want to switch, stay, contact Delta, contact Sheepdog. Just kind of what's the council's pleasure at this point.
I think it's increased, but if we get what we're paying for, I think it's worth it, because we're not getting what we're paying for now. I mean, we're throwing that money away, because you never know. Like I said, 4:30 every morning, between 4:15 and 4:30, the park's open. And I can sit and take pictures if you want to see them. And you never know what, it's gonna be 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock when they lock it. And so that don't give very much leeway for them to come make that,
Middle of the night.
middle run.
Yeah.
So. Ben, you probably verify that too, but you probably not, I don't know if you're up looking out there for
Oh,
4:30, but I
not
promise
4:30
you
in the
I am.
morning, though.
Why not?
How's everybody else feel?
I think we're way to look at Delta. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I can see, like I said, we're not getting what we're paying for now.
Well, let me ask you this, if you didn't want to go with Delta, are you looking at 2 or 3 trips a day? The only reason I ask is it is in terms of if we came back with a budget amendment and planning for the next budget year, it's about a $4,000 or $5,000 difference for that extra trip.
And it's Griffin 2 trips a day.
They charge us for 3 trips. But
Anybody talking to them, we don't think they're doing their job.
I don't have any evidence of that, but I'm not up there. Honestly, Ben and Carrie would be able to tell you more than I do in terms of how.
I promise you, I've not seen the middle trip at all. Because like I said, they're opening between 4 and 4:30 every morning. And like I said, if you want pictures, I can take them. Because he'll turn his lights on and go flash them. He pulls in the lower part before he goes in the locks the upper gate.
And if you did increase it, or if you did switch, the additional benefits, in terms of what you're paying for, you do get a report each week or month with.
Exactly. I mean, that's just, I think it's aggravating because you're seeing people walk up through the park, you're seeing people come in. Do I think they need to be that middle trip? Technically, yes. Because if you don't, we've done had the problem from sleeping up there underneath but those motion lights are working.
I'll tell you what we might could ask is, could you just sporadically plan 2, let's say 2 middle night trips a week? That way it's not.
Periodically, that way they're seeing them come in, it could deter.
Yeah, you never know which night it'll be, it doesn't.
Coming in.
You're talking about random.
Yeah,
couple
random
random trips.
Couple of weeks, that way they don't know when they're gonna show up and they
It's better than nothing.
eventually might put fear of God in some of them, I don't know.
Let's think twice.
They also mentioned they wouldn't just look for intruders, but let's say if you've got lights out or something like that, they would put that in the report given to staff so we would know it. So I mean, that's another additional.
But you'd asked me about the motion lights and they are working now.
Okay, that's good. So go to Delta, look for 2 trips a day and then see if they'll
A
quote.
couple randoms during the week.
Okay. Can't guarantee it'll do it, but it's worth asking. I mean, at $15 a trip, you're saving 3 or 4 trips, 5 trips a week. You're at, $75 at 5 trips a week. 52 weeks a year. And that's up.
All right, is that done by consensus, or just directing staff?
Yeah, if you'll just vote to direct staff to negotiate with Delta for park patrol services.
Okay. All right, that was by consensus, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. 7, new business, 7A, presentation and approval of fiscal year 21 through 22 audit report, Loudermilk Church and Company. Well, you got a lot of paper.
So what I'm handing out is just the draft. We are waiting for the approval from the state treasurer's office.
Awesome, thank you.
Did I get one?
Oops.
I'm sorry,
That's fine.
I apologize.
Thank you.
They have an extra.
Thank you.
And then just one more. Apologize for all the paper. So I'd like to start off by saying thank you for having me tonight. And so as I had mentioned just a few minutes ago, this is a draft. And we submitted this to the LGC, or the State Treasurer's Office, last week. And we will provide a bound final report once we get the approval from the State Treasurer's Office. But on page 1 of the draft report, paragraph 1 and 2 under opinions basically tells that you've got a clean, unmodified opinion. And also want to point out that you had a Yellow Book audit this year. So you had funding of more than 100,000 in federal and state funding. A single audit, which you did not have, but a single audit would require funding of federal funds of 750,000, or a state single audit of 500,000 or more. So basically, with the Yellow Book audit on page 34, or I'm sorry, 54, I've got my glasses on. This is our schedule of findings and responses. And I would like to point out that with the majority of the audits that we do a large number of governmental audits, cities, towns, counties, Board of Educations, and then we also do a lot of nonprofits. And so the two deficiencies that you see here, the first one being segregation of duties, and the second one being draft financial statements. So the first one, segregation of duties, basically what we're saying is because of the staff size, it's hard to get around not having this deficiency, not just for the town, but a lot of the audits that we do. When it's a small organization, it's hard to have a good segregation of duties so that you have enough people involved in the process to make certain that you've got good internal controls. So, like I said, maybe we have this segregation of duties deficiency with a lot of our audits for that same very reason. You just don't have, when you have a smaller staff, it's hard to get around that. And then the second deficiency, draft financial statements. It's basically because we prepared the financial statements. We drafted the financial statements, and Logan and Rick actually reviewed it. But the fact that we have to prepare it, and we prepare the financials for 99% of our clients. So again, this is something that's fairly common in our audits as a deficiency. Because the state treasurer's office wants to see the government's actually preparing their financials. But there again, even the larger governments that have a larger number of staff members, they also still have a problem finding enough staff to assist with drafting the financial statements. So I wanted to point that out. Last year, for 2021, the state treasurer's office came up with performance indicators. And so anytime there's a performance indicator, the board will need to draft a letter, or I guess Logan and Rick would draft it for each of you to sign. But anytime there's a performance indicator that comes up, the letter has to go back to the state treasurer's office so that they know that all of you are aware of the concerns. So the items that came up on the performance indicators were the two that I just addressed, the segregation of duties and the draft financial statements. The other item that showed up on the performance indicators was the fact that we amended the contract. We amended it to extend the time frame to allow us to have more time. So that will also need to be addressed. The contract's been the amended contract has been approved by the state treasurer's office, but there again, they want to see it in letter format that all of you are aware of it. So, and this was something new that the state treasurer's office started in the prior year. On the other handout that I provided, it's in the letter format. That's basically just stating that Did we encounter any difficulties in performing our audit? We did not. Logan and Rick were great to work with, have, great knowledge of their responsibilities. Any disagreements with management on the second page? There were none. There's another paragraph that addresses, did we consult with other independent accountants, and we did not. There were no other findings or issues that came to our attention. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the financial highlights, and I just wanted to briefly go over those. So the first column of numbers is your 2022 audit that we just completed. And then your 2021 column was prepared by another auditor, but for comparison purposes, I did include it. So cash and investments actually went down approximately 1.3 million. Your restricted cash and investments actually went up approximately 85,000. Your total assets went down approximately 1 million. Your fund balance actually went down approximately 950,000. And then your total revenue actually only decreased about 70,000. Total expenditures actually increased approximately 107,000. And then transfers in and out between your projects and the general fund, you had transfers out of approximately a little over $1 million. Your increase or decrease in fund balance was a decrease of 950,000. Ad valorem taxes went from 268,380 in the prior year, increased to 279,411 in 2022, which was an increase of approximately 11,000. Your percent of taxes collected went from 99.26% up to 99.59%. And then your investment income, there was only a $39 difference between the 2 years. Your available fund balance percentage went from 331.75% down to 82.41%. But let me point out that the minimum available fund balance that the state treasurer is requiring is 34%, so the 82.41 is well above that. And then the state average of municipalities of similar size without an electric system was 63%, so you're still well above that. And the reason the available fund balance actually went down substantially, even though it's still substantially higher than what the state treasurer's office has suggested or required, is you've got a lot of projects that are beginning to start, and so there was a lot of, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there were funds that were transferred out of the general fund into those various projects. So, so that's the reason for the difference. Any questions on any of that? All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, so we need to vote on this. Do I hear a motion? Right. All in favor? Thank you. Okay. 7B, consider approval of new town attorney and attorney fee and employment contract.
I don't know if that's for me to address, but I was grilled and interviewed and poked and prodded and asked about as many questions I could about Hildebran. Why, what are the job? That's what I'm happy to do it. I'm looking forward to it. I've enjoyed my time so far, and I'm happy that you'll have it. There is a contract in your packet that is similar to the interim contract that I'm under right now, except that the interim contract is strictly hourly. This would have a yearly retainer. It is the same, it's identical to the contract I have for college breaks. And for the council's information, I mean, my normal hourly rate is $2.50 an hour, so these are certainly discounted rates for the town.
Yes, and these are the same rates that the committee, when Wendell and Mike were taking their shots at him during the interviews. Same rates that same rates that he mentioned during the interview process, so just as an FYI. But we would need a motion to vote by the council.
I'll make a motion. That's good.
All right, all in favor? Thank you. All right, you're stuck with us.
So let's take two votes. You voted to approve the contract, so check that mark. Now we would do a second vote to appoint him as the town attorney, just as an official title to the town. So I'd take a
I'll
second.
make that motion to appoint town attorney.
All in favor? Thank you. Anything else?
I made a motion for the contract.
That was
Mike's,
Mike Smith.
and then Terry made.
Just unanimous on every item, but
Okay, 7C, consider approval of facility rental policy.
So if you wanna turn to, attachment 7C for the policy, I'll review it. So, last month during the North Carolina City County Managers Conference in Winston-Salem, we discussed, facility rentals in other towns and municipalities across the state. And we discussed the facilities, problems that arise with local governments who are in the rental business, and then the rental policies themselves. During one of the sessions, I was informed that all decisions regarding rental facilities must be backed by a formal policy that designates authority to the manager to make decisions regarding things such as rent forgiveness, which has been one of our recent issues given the failures of the restrooms for the gymnasium, Eastbrook Youth a couple Saturdays ago. The mayor remembers this. And then the park restrooms that we had the 8-degree night that busted everything. So generally in situations like that, since I've been here, the norm was to, if they experience something like that and they want to go through with the rental, then we reimburse them about half the rental fee. But the policy goes over more than that. So anyway, it would give staff the ability to make decisions on rent forgiveness based on things like utility failures, inclement weather, town-initiated cancellations, or any other reason that's not due to the renter or the renter's policy. Currently, we do not have a policy on the books that addresses our rental agreements. We do have the agreements themselves, we just don't have a formal policy. So our policy addresses 10 items: reservations, rental fees, deposits and refunds, general liability insurance, town access during events. And speaking specifically on town access is that when they rent the facilities, we have a formal policy that also says that we're allowed onto the premises even during the events and the rentals. So that was one of the major ones. The renter's responsibilities, that's also outlined in the policy or in the contracts, but it's outlined in the policies as well. Refunds, cancellations, scheduling, fee waivers. So essentially, this policy acts as a supporting document to our existing rental agreements. With the policy in place, I would be able to address things like utility failures, inclement weather, or a town-initiated cancellation. Generally, we end up giving them about half back. That's just kind of the practice that we've done when we have issues. So, but as I said earlier, the policy also references our rental agreements, so it helps ensure the entire agreement is followed by each renter on an individual basis. And then if it isn't, the town has a policy in place that works hand in hand with our rental agreements to ensure staff has the authority to enforce rental agreements while also ensuring all of our renters are treated equally and fairly. So it's essentially, it formalizes a lot of the stuff that we already do, puts it in a policy format. So with that, staff recommends approval of the policy. We need a motion voted by council, and we can answer any questions or concerns that council have.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, B, discussion of feasibility grant for the river trail.
Okay, and the majority of council was actually at the Burke River Trail session we had last week, so it's not maybe much of an update. We also had quite a few of our honeymoon members and events committee members, so it was pretty good turnout. So given that, just to make everyone aware, as an announcement, the Western Piedmont Council of Governments was awarded the feasibility study grant on behalf of the town of Hildebran by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. We were one of 25 awardees around the state to be selected for the feasibility study grant. The total value, even though we don't receive any cash in this grant, we receive the services. The total value of the feasibility grant services amounts to just over $2 million for the 25 awardees. The studies will evaluate the viability of the river trail coming into Hildebran, complete initial stages of design, perform environmental reviews, and develop implementation strategies. The announcement mentioned that public input will play an important role in each study's conclusion. So I will keep you guys up to date, and we'll make the public aware as we move forward in terms of our responsibilities in the grant process. But that's all I got for you for now.
All right, the February facilities report, that's in your packet. I don't know if you have any comment on that.
I was gonna cover it under other business, but we're still waiting on Cliff's Plumbing for their parts to come in to fix the park restrooms. So they're still closed, just as a FYI.
F, January tax report, that's in your packet. G, January deputy report, also in your packet. H, committee reports. Here we go. Okay. Technical coordinating committee.
Yes, so earlier today, I sent over the TCC agenda and the TCC's Unified Planning Work Program, in case you do want to review it. The Unified Planning Work Program outlines transportation planning tasks to be conducted during the fiscal year for 2023 and 2024. The UPWP sets the budget for these items and identifies the funding sources. MPOs, so the Metropolitan Planning Organization staff, is responsible for ensuring these items are addressed, and it identifies the funding sources necessary to complete the project. The planning tasks identified in the Uniform Work Program are agreed upon. They also document a 5-year planning calendar to help keep their work on schedule. And then lastly, there were 12 items that the TCC and TAC put out during the meeting and immediately following the meeting for public comment. I'm still currently reviewing those. If council wants to review those, I'm planning on sending those out first thing in the morning. So if you have any questions after you look at those, please give me a call. But I'll be spending some of this week reviewing those as well. in case we did want to provide any public comment. The public comment will be, recorded and taken next month during the TCC meeting. So that'll be a kind of an important one to go to, if there is anything in those documents that we want to provide comment on. That's all I have.
Transportation Advisory Committee,
I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but I do have a copy that I can forward to anybody that wants to. Let's have it.
Western Piedmont Council Government Policy Board,
I attended that meeting. They said goodbye to a lot of employees and they welcomed a whole lot more in. A lot of them got the new jobs. They got up, introduced them, what they'd be doing, all this stuff. And then, what's his name?
The director.
Yeah, Jackie. Anthony, yeah. Anthony got up, he talked a whole lot about how much work stuff they gonna be doing this year. So that's it. I haven't lost my notes, what I had, but I remember that much of it.
Burke Economic Development.
Yes, so, BDI this month met in Morganton. We discussed the budget, their ongoing projects. The biggest thing, at least in terms of their budget, there's two things. One, they're recommending 6% raises for employees, but they're also discussing a short-term capital campaign to raise funds for the coming year. They had a 5-year plan. It included the first year of required contributions from organizations in the community. The next 4 years were voluntary. However, they did end up collecting 80% of the contribution pledges. So that was good. It was about $680,000 in the last 5-year plan, so they did well. So they're going to continue that this year with the same companies, going out for a 1-year run instead of 5. Then the next, or the most important thing, in my opinion, they discussed was something they started last year. It was their Opportunity Internship Program that registers Burke County High School seniors for an 8-week internship with local organizations in Burke County. Currently this year, there are 78 high school seniors registered for the program. Last year, which again was their first year, they had 25. So they've more than tripled that this year. So they were very proud of that, and I feel like they should be. Given that participation is up, however, they are looking for additional mentors and employers to participate in the program. So if you know anyone or know of any companies looking for something like that, send them my way and I can send them to BDI. And then lastly, Brian Epley, the new county manager, attended his first BDI meeting. All in all, it seems like he's very interested in work, and he's currently diving into all things Burke County budget related to the county. That's all I have.
Rec and Tourism,
That's the report.
Water Resource Committee. Vedic.
Warren, I'll pronounce it.
Taking a while.
I've got 2 reports here because I've got the January and February report. Betty met in Valdez Town Hall on January the 26th. They went over their balance sheet and profit and loss, and the minutes for December were approved. They said they have plenty of money to loan, so if you know of any businesses that might benefit from that, let them know. Betty has lots of money to loan. Tim Bars and Lily Laramie are new board members that represent the town of Valdez. Evan Gypsy gave an update on the delinquent report. They did a new policy that if you make a payment late, you're charged $50, which they needed to do because some people were a little slow in getting their checks in. So this is just to remind them to send their money in for their loans. There was one new loan approved in Caldwell County, and technical assistance was given to 2 businesses. In February, they had the meeting on February the 23rd. One new loan was approved for a business in Morganton. A new automatic draft policy was approved as an option for the clients for new ones and old ones. I think they're going to give a break in the percentage rate if you go with an automatic draft to your bank account. Longview made an announcement that they're having a chili cook-off on April the 1st at 3 o'clock. If anybody wants to go join learn that, you can go buy chili or you can go make chili. The next board meeting will be March the 23rd at the Valdez Town Hall. And that's it. Any questions? Oh, I did have one more thing. They did have a presentation that they will do for council members, and they wanted to know if you wanted them to come down and do a presentation about that in the businesses they have supported in York County. Would you like me to arrange that in one of the council meeting?
That's good.
Yay or nay?
So,
Okay, now I'll get with Logan, and we'll get that done.
Library board, we didn't meet this month. Comprehensive master plan steering committee,
That's done.
that's
No,
done.
no, that was,
We more.
far I know, they sent a, planning board, I mean, our part stuff. I think the planning board has to do something, and the council does something with that, so it's in process anymore.
Yeah, like Mike said, so what'll happen is the committee's done their part, the COG's done their part in terms of the plan. It's going to the planning board for their recommendation to the council, and then you guys will vote on it the meeting after the planning board makes their recommendation. So we'll remove that once it's passed.
Events committee. Karen, go ahead.
Logan's gonna start and I'm gonna join in.
Oh, let me get the bus off.
Yeah.
Through under. So one of the things we discussed, first of all, we met with Sergeant Eddie Marlowe of the Longview Police Department earlier this evening. He does seem interested in possibly coordinating the Hildebran Festival in 2024, so next year. We laid out the community laid out some of their expectations and desires, wishes for what the parade or the festival would look like. We discussed things like the grand opening of the park, having the Burke Chamber, some county commissioners there, security, some of the amenities we may want to have in terms of vendors, food trucks, the churches involved, local nonprofits, businesses, etc. It was a pretty good conversation. One of the things that we discussed was the opening of the park and how that is somewhat going to dictate the timing of the parade and some of the challenges that brings up. But the main issue that came up, and Karen and Sonia will attest, I don't have to put too much into it. So one of the things we discussed when we passed the contract for West Consultants for the park was that lighting was not included in this contract. However, we have discussed lighting, and I have gotten with Duke Energy to discuss lighting and what it would look like out there. However, we kind of talked about that as a phase 2. You can see them all shaking their heads.
The committee decided that might not be such a good idea. Council may want to think about that a little more. You know what kind of trouble we've had at the park with no lighting. You're going to have a park down here, you're going to have a stage, you're going to have amphitheater, you're going to have equipment and stuff, and there's nobody there watching it. So when it gets dark, you're going to have people who are homeless in there, you're going to have drug deals in there, you're going to have all kinds of stuff. It'll be a headache for our community policing, it'll be a headache for everybody. You're going to have trash all over the place. The committee feels that the lighting should be in phase 1, and you should have a lot of it.
And
If we get trouble, can we punish them?
you put the park rules up, and the sheriff's department has the ability.
Yes.
All they're gonna do is turn loose. Can we punish them?
Not us in. Well, and one of the
I got
biggest,
one of that. They won't do it. They won't do it. I ain't one to do it. The rest of them are. Yes, no, you're right, exactly.
Well,
You're right.
the reason it became an issue for the committee and apparent issue is, their ideas on the opening, the festival would be a 2-day thing. So a Friday night and a Saturday, but, when you start looking in September in terms of when the sun sets, you're looking at anywhere between 7:10 and 7:40 earlier in the month, 7:10 at the end of the month. So it's going to range somewhere in there, and you're talking about a 6 to 9 p.m. event, you're gonna lose all your lighting by, you know.
I think there needs to be lighting out there to get you.
It should be in the first part.
Absolutely.
It will increase your cost, so that's something we'll have to get back to West Consultants, see if they can, put in the contract, that'll be an, you know, an added,
I think that's a necessity.
but it's, okay.
That's my personal opinion.
The committee definitely feels that way.
Yeah.
This council, is that something council wants to direct staff to try and include in the contract? And the biggest reason why I wanted to bring it up to the committee tonight and to you all is when I did talk to Duke Energy, they're saying it's an 8-month wait on parts. So it's an 8-month lead time to get parts in and schedule it. So if we do want to do it, I would say you want to get on that now so that you've got ample time to plan and schedule it with your contractors. That's a wish of the council.
Are we talking about like street lights on poles, or we're talking about pole lights like on the sidewalk area? Or we're talking about both of them?
It could be a combination of both. Do you want some street light? Once we get to a point where we can talk to Duke Energy and have a proposal, we can actually have someone from Duke Energy come out and maybe do a presentation on the lights.
I think if you're having, my personal opinion, have some lights put up, that'll be on all the time, but then lights that you can turn on if you've got an event. That way you don't have to burn them all the time.
That may or may not be a Duke Energy thing. That may be I can ask them. I can definitely find out more.
When they put the pole lights up, you know, what they call night lights, whatever. I mean, don't you pay so much a month for them?
Yeah, I got one in my backyard, they use LED lights now and they do light up well, but I still think there need to be a few lights put up that if you have an event, that you want to turn the lights on to light it up, you know.
You could probably do some, there's probably some rental lights, or we can talk to West Consultants about, additional lights that could be turned on by the town for events.
I don't know. We need to light the whole place up or ain't nobody here.
Okay. So whenever I found the golf course, I can see, I think there's 6 ways touched.
Can I ask one more question? Logan,
Yeah. Yes.
if you're having when we do get the park down here, if you're having the park patrol up there, are they going to include this part down here
You would,
in the patrol?
you would want to, and that would be.
I think they are too.
Next year or two.
I think it would be a good idea.
I mean, it looks like a deputy should ride, somebody should ride through and check and see how we've got an office here. You know, this is public service, but I still think security ought to go out and check it. But you're gonna have bathrooms, you're gonna have doors, the people gonna break locks, people gonna break in, but you have a chance.
It would be something we want to look at, probably not this budget year, but next. It's going in September 24, so that'd be for the 24-25 budget, but yeah, absolutely.
All right. 7I, cleaning.
I've had several people complaining about the cleanliness of the gym, restrooms, and the community room. So who's supposed to be taking care of that now?
Currently, because,
Lonsdale.
Joey's been out, but Mark's been back for the last couple of weeks. We did have in terms of the community center, you know, the idea with the renters is they're supposed to return it to the same cleanliness standard as when they found it. Same thing with Eastbrook Youth, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I mean, if they're complaining about their own, you know, that the renters themselves should know but at the same time, there are instances when maybe they don't, and you know, obviously the toiletries, there's supposed to be certain things done by maintenance, but I do think some of the renters should know that they've got to return it to the same standard. That's in our rental agreements. I don't know if they have, but what I was trying to mention with the issue we had with the backup, that that was a mess that should be cleaned up by the maintenance staff. So I can look into that to see if it's been cleaned since the backup happened. But then after that, it should be the regulars.
The men's restroom I've noticed here needs cleaning also.
But that,
Auditorium clean, the auditorium needs to be cleaned.
Also other business, the flag in front of this building is ripped. So we might want to look at replacing that.
Okay. Other business. Yes.
I want to make one thing, when y'all are thinking about your renovations to the auditorium, the air conditioner socket that was put in up there, you need to remember the reason that was put in that way. Mike, would you like to tell them why that was put in that way? Asbestos in the ceiling.
We're gonna have to do that $1 million worth of asbestos work. The way it is now, we just have pinholes and they get clean up top. You go over 150 square feet, you have to go into the full container for asbestos. And asking my air monitor and stuff like that, so that was the only way we could put in air conditioning out here. Short of spending a fortune on asbestos.
And having the whole thing tinted. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of why it was done that way, because I've had some questions about that. So I just want everybody to be on the same page. Thank you.
Any other business?
Would you like a motion?
Wait a minute,
we got several business.
Yeah, just from a staff standpoint, so Playworld did install the accessible swing that we talked about at the park. When they came out, they also noticed that there were a couple playground items that are supposed to have ADA mats underneath them. So they installed the ADA mats, they installed the accessible swing, and then they also put in a ramp into the swing set area. I think it has one more piece of playground equipment on it, but it was not ADA accessible, and that was a requirement. So they did all that stuff last week. And then I told you earlier about what was also going to be part of this update is that they ordered the parts, but they haven't come in yet. So when they get those in, they're going to fix the restrooms.
We also need council to delegate authority to Logan to sign the easements for the flock cameras.
For the walls?
Since you can't, because you're one of the easements, we will delegate authority to Logan to sign the easements.
Sure.
For the what, Alice?
The flock cameras.
Wendell's one of the property owners, so it's probably better to have segregation.
And it's not necessarily a requirement that the town sign because they're not giving up anything, but just out of abundance of caution, it's more doing that.
All right, any more announcements?
We need a motion to vote on that.
Oh,
Please.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'll make a motion.
All right, all in favor? Thank you.
How's that?
Okay, Ben.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
All in favor?